Help me hit 7,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you. I never thought a simple label could change everything. You're just a friend, she said, like it was a fact carved into stone. I had to sit down for a moment, just to let it sink in. My name is Oliver, I'm 29, and I had spent the last 3 years thinking Clara and I were something more than casual. We had laughed until our sides hurt, shared secrets I never told anyone else, and stayed up late talking about the dumbest things just because it felt comforting. I thought she felt it too. Turns out I had been wrong. Clara had always been special in a way that made my chest tighten whenever she was near. Her laugh was infectious, bright and mischievous, and she had this way of tilting her head when she was thinking, like the world could wait. I never imagined someone like her could be just a friend. And yet there it was. The words hung in the air between us, heavier than I anticipated. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. Instead, I smiled, nodded, and said, "Of course, I understand." Deep down, I knew I was about to try something I had never done before, to treat her like exactly what she said I was, a friend. Nothing more. The first few days were quiet, too quiet. I stopped texting her randomly, stopped leaving little notes on her desk, and avoided lingering touches that might have been misinterpreted. When she told me about her weekend plans or the cute boy she met at work, I listened, laughed, and offered advice, like any ordinary friend would. And every time I did, a strange sense of freedom settled in. I wasn't chasing affection that wasn't there. I wasn't risking heartbreak over imagined feelings. Then came the subtle shifts. Clara started texting more, sharing jokes she had kept to herself, asking for my opinion on things she wouldn't have before. I kept my tone casual, light, always neutral. I didn't compliment her looks the way I used to. I didn't linger in conversations longer than necessary, and I certainly didn't flinch when she talked about other people she liked. The irony wasn't lost on me. As soon as I stopped trying, she started noticing me more. It was a Tuesday evening when the first real crack appeared. We were sitting at our usual coffee spot, a tiny corner shop that smelled of cinnamon and old books. She was animatedly telling me about some mishap at work, hands flying in the air, hair falling into her face in that way I had always adored. And then, mid-sentence, she paused. Her eyebrows furrowed slightly, and for the first time, I caught a flicker of something unspoken. Curiosity, confusion, maybe a little guilt. "Oliver," she began, and her voice was softer than usual. She fiddled with the edge of her sleeve, twisting it around her fingers nervously. I don't know why, but it feels like you've changed." I shrugged, casually sipping my coffee, careful to keep my expression unreadable. "Maybe I have," I said. "Or maybe I just stopped trying to be what I wasn't supposed to be." She blinked, like she hadn't expected that. And for the first time, I realized how much of our friendship had been built on my quiet longing, my subtle hope that she would feel the same way I did. I had always been the one stretching my feelings over her words, coloring casual jokes into secret declarations. Now, with no expectations, no hidden desires, everything between us felt clear. Clara leaned back in her chair, staring at me with a mix of frustration and something else I couldn't quite name. Her hands gripped her mug, knuckles white. And then, in a voice that cracked slightly at the edges, she said it. "Wait, are you saying you don't care if I like someone else?" I paused. I let the silence stretch. The sound of the coffee machine whirring, the low murmur of other patrons, the faint jingling of the bell whenever someone walked in. It all became background to this tiny, explosive moment. I nodded slowly. "I don't," I said. "I care about you. I enjoy being around you. But I don't need more than what you're willing to give. That's your choice, not mine." Her reaction was immediate. She laughed, a sharp, surprised sound that didn't reach her eyes at first. And then, like a dam breaking, she dropped her shoulders and leaned forward, resting her forehead on the table. "Oliver, you're impossible." I tilted my head, hiding a smile. Maybe I just finally stopped being predictable. She looked up, eyes wide, searching mine. For a second, I thought she might cry, or yell, or storm out. But instead, she sat back, running a hand through her hair, and muttered, half to herself, I don't know what this is. And that's when I realized the truth. The rules had changed. She had thrown a label at me, just a friend, expecting me to shrink back, to grovel, to bend my feelings to her comfort. Instead, I had done the opposite. I had stepped back, detached, and for the first time, the power shifted quietly, invisibly, between us. It wasn't about games. It wasn't about revenge. It was about respect, self-respect and hers. And now, sitting across from her, watching her try to process what she had unleashed, I understood just how explosive treating someone exactly like they say they are could be. The days that followed were a strange mix of tension and curiosity. Clara started seeking me out more often, inviting me to lunch, asking for advice, lingering on phone calls longer than she used to. And every time she did, I stayed consistent, lighthearted, engaged, but carefully distant. I listened, I laughed, cared, but only as a friend. Nothing more. One Friday evening, we found ourselves at a small music gig downtown. The place was dim, walls covered with graffiti and posters of bands long forgotten. Clara was buzzing with energy, talking about how she loved discovering new artists, how she felt alive in these tiny, crowded rooms. I let her ramble, as usual, nodding along, occasionally chiming in with observations. But I noticed subtle glances, tiny flickers of hesitation in her eyes when she realized I wasn't chasing her. She was seeing me differently now. Oliver, she said softly during a slow, acoustic set, you've changed again. I don't know what's going on, but it's unsettling. I smiled faintly, keeping my tone even. I'm just being honest, I said. For the first time, I'm just being me. No expectations, no hidden motives. It's freeing. Her lips parted, and I could see the conflict playing across her features. On one hand, she was intrigued, even flustered. On the other, she was frustrated. Frustrated that she couldn't push me, manipulate the dynamic, or predict my reactions the way she had before. And I realized something important. The real explosion hadn't happened the day she called me just a friend. It was happening now, slowly, quietly, in her mind, as she processed the fact that I was no longer the boy bending to her rules. I was finally standing on my own ground. Over the next few weeks, our interactions became a careful dance. She tried testing boundaries, teasing comments, flirtatious hints, small touches, and I met each one with calm neutrality. Nothing more, nothing less. Every time she expected a spark, I delivered a steady flame of friendship. And every time, she recoiled slightly, caught off guard by the very thing she had asked for: honesty and equality. It was during one late-night walk through the city park that everything crystallized. Streetlights flickered along the path, casting shadows across the fallen leaves, and we walked side by side, quiet but aware of the subtle tension. She stopped suddenly, looking down at the ground, kicking a stray leaf. Oliver, I don't understand, she said, voice barely above a whisper. You act like nothing's changed, but everything has. I stopped too, hands in pockets, meeting her gaze. Everything has changed, Clara. The difference is, I finally stopped pretending to be what you wanted me to be. I'm still me, still your friend, still someone who cares about you. But I don't chase what isn't freely given. Her eyebrows knit together, a mixture of awe and frustration in her expression. And then she laughed. Not the nervous giggle she usually gave, but a full, unguarded laugh, like the dam had broken in a different way this time. You're impossible, she repeated, shaking her head, hair falling across her face. I thought I could control this, you know? I thought labeling you would make everything simple. But I was wrong. I can't predict you. I can't control you. And I don't like it. I smiled faintly, letting the silence stretch, letting her process the shift. Good, I said simply, because that's never been my role. I'm not here to be controlled. I'm here to exist honestly and to care on my terms. If that works for you, we continue. If not, we part, and I still wish you well. Her eyes softened, a flicker of vulnerability breaking through the facade. I think, I think I underestimated you, she admitted. I thought I knew exactly how you'd react, but I don't. And it's confusing, but kind of exciting. I chuckled, a low, calm sound. That's what honesty does. It shakes the foundations. It forces people to see you for who you are, not who they want you to be. And in that moment, something subtle shifted. The dynamic between us had altered irrevocably. She was no longer the one holding power over my emotions, and I wasn't the one bending under the weight of unreciprocated longing. For the first time, we were truly equals in our friendship, yet the tension of what could be lingered like a charged wire between us. Weeks later, we sat together on her apartment balcony, city lights twinkling below, sipping tea in the quiet comfort of our mutual presence. She looked at me and said, softly but firmly, I don't know what this is anymore, Oliver. I thought I had it all figured out, but clearly I don't. You're just different now. I can't ignore it. And I realized then that the explosion she had promised, the reaction I had anticipated, wasn't loud or dramatic. It wasn't anger, tears, or shouting. It was subtle, quiet, and powerful, a recognition that the rules had changed and the balance had shifted. She had challenged me, labeled me, tried to control the narrative. I simply honored her words, and in doing so, changed everything. I smiled, finally, feeling a calm I hadn't known I could have in months. Clara, I said, I'm still your friend, but now maybe you see me differently, or maybe you don't. Either way, I'm still me, and that's all I need to be. Her gaze softened, and for the first time, I didn't feel the need to chase, to explain, or to justify my presence. She had set the stage. I had responded honestly, and in that quiet, subtle explosion of understanding, everything had changed, just by treating her exactly as she asked, like a friend.